Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a lineup construction video for the WGC Mexico Championship. Hopefully you guys were with me during the preview video as I went over a bunch of stats throughout the last couple years, try to find some correlations that might prove to be successful. For this year, I'll go through some of it, but usually in my lineup construction videos, I kind of just repeat what I've done in those preview videos, and it just lengthens this video way too much. So with that, I would also like to point out that you can watch this video in a faster speed. If you're on desktop, go ahead, drag your mouse over my face, over the rest of the screen. You'll find a gear icon somewhere right down here. Click that gear icon. You will find playback speed. Choose whatever speed you're comfortable listening to this at. I prefer 1.5 times speed. Whatever floats your boat. If you're in mobile, top right corner, you're going to see three dots that kind of make a line. I think that's for Android. I don't know what it looks like on iPhone, but you're still going to find it up in the top right. Drill down on that. You're going to find playback speed there as well. Again, choose what speed you're comfortable watching it at. And with that, I will have timestamps in the description to make it even faster. So you can jump and skip, go to whatever segment you want. It's just more efficient. Life will be better that way. Okay, so let's go ahead, look at the player pool criteria that I have for this week's tournament. I'm looking for golfers that have good course history, good POA history, and good recent form. If you were with me in the last couple tournaments, that fluctuates. Sometimes I'll say decent, sometimes I'll say bad. I mean, that kind of applied to the Puerto Rico Open with recent form. You know, it was like decent to bad, but we want all good. And then 4 and 5 are my bucket system scoring. And we want 1 to 4 last year 1s, 1 to 3 last year 2s. Let's go over that right now, just so we can get it out of the way, get you guys caught up to it if you haven't been in any of these videos before. And if it's the first time, welcome. Thank you for watching. What I do is I track top 10 performances. I also track top 5 performances. And then what I'll do is I will grab whatever their finishing position was from either the year before, so last year, and the week before. Not and or. It's definitely both. So in 2019, golfers who finished inside the top 10, there were 5 that had finished the year before somewhere between 1st and 20th place. And that's what that number signifies. And as we go down the line, in 2018, there were 5 golfers that also finished the year before 1st to 20th at that tournament. And you get the idea. This really should say 21st to 40th, 41st to 60th, 61st to 80th. But if you understand how Google Sheets work, it's always going to be 1 to 20, and this will be like 20.0001. So obviously it's going to be 21st place. You'll never see 20 in this, much like you'll never see 40 in this. But just so you guys aren't confused by that. I also do that same thing for the last week. So this is just the week prior. In 2019, we had 5 golfers that finished 1st to 20th place the year before. And again, that was who finished inside the top 10 for 2019. So there you go. You got an idea. I do this for every year, for every range, and then I do a count. So you can see up here the equation for that count covers all of those cells right there. That gives us a number, and based off that number, I then give a ranking. Super simple. Nothing is really complicated by it. Sometimes though, we'll get numbers that match. So you'll see, 2 9s right here. What would determine a 2 over a 3? I typically will come up to the top 5 because this would be inside the top 5. I'll see if there's a difference there, and sure enough, we do have one. Obviously, that count is lower than that count, but again, these counts are the same. So you can see it kind of on your screen. That's how I determine, whether there's a tie, and also if there's a tie and there's definitely no distinguishable stat up here that I can look at, I will then just go by the range and what I feel, tournament after tournament, year after year, what is more prevalent. And I typically know that it's usually a miscut is better than a 20 to 40. A 1 to 20 is usually better than a miscut. and did not play is somewhere in the same range as 1 to 20 and miscut. So I kind of know that just from doing this quite a bit. I've done it for like 6 months. It's provided some pretty decent success. Just recently, I started going even a step further into it and putting the combinations together. So I will grab, the finishing positions, 1st through 10th. As you can see, there are a couple ties here at 10th. That's why this, is a little bit longer than the rest of them. But I'll put the combinations together, and then with this, this was busy work. I know you guys will roll your eyes at me. I will then look to see how many times a combination has finished inside the top 10. And then with that number, so there was 3. I'm thinking there's a 4th one. There it is. So there's 4 1-3s. Did I miss another one? Oh, I did right here. So there's 5 missed 3 or 5 1-3s. So that's what this number over here indicates. But there were only 3 different years where we've seen a 1-3. So out of the last 6 years, we only see 1-3s in 3 of the top 10s for those tournaments, for the last 6 tournaments. And then that, represents this 3 out of 6. So that's how you can read this. 5 out of 6 years, 5 out of 6 years, 3 out of 6 years. And then to the left of it is the count of how many times over the last 6 years it's happened. So we can look at the 1-1s, and you can see none of them happened in 2019, but as we go through, we're going to see multiple 1-1s all over the place. Definitely worth considering in playing. So just keep that in mind. 1-1s were pretty prevalent besides last year. And basically, again, what a 1-1 is, you're going to listen to me say 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-2, 3-4, stuff like that. The first number is always the last year score, the last year bucket, and then the second number is always the last week bucket. So last year bucket 1, last week bucket 1. And then you can see what that signifies. So for last year, that's 1st to 20th. For last week, that's did not play. And if we were to go to 2019 and take a look at, the top guys, why we couldn't find, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Why we couldn't find a last year 1 who didn't play the week before, like we're not going to find a lot of them. So Shabanka Sharma would be one, Pat Kazire would be another, and Alex Noren would be another. Not the greatest of golfers. So that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't see one in the top 10. If we went to like 2018 and looked for a 1-1, which again is a top, last year score of 1 to 20, and it did not play. Phil Mickelson, a little bit better than Shabanka Sharma. Dustin Johnson, yeah, a little bit better. So those are also things to take into consideration when we look at the player pool for DraftKings, especially on the spreadsheet. But that's it. That's what I do. And actually, one other thing is I then, calculate this. A lot of this is easy math. I can take this 5 out of 6. 5 divided by 6 gets me 83%. So as we go to the DraftKings page and we look at 1-1, so if I clear this and put a 1 here, clear this and put a 1 there, 83.33%. And that's what this column signifies here. This BC percentage just stands for bucket combination percentage. How often has this shown up in the top 10 of this tournament over the last 6 years? And that's 83%. Now, what I've learned doing this for like the last 4 months is that you can't just blindly trust this number. You got to look at the players inside that bucket, inside these buckets. Out of these 3 golfers, how likely is it that one of them is going to finish inside the top 10? Well, I think it's very likely. All 3 of them can finish inside the top 10, and all 3 of them at one time could finish inside the top 10. So that's worth consideration. But out of them, will one at least finish inside the top 10? I'd say yes. I mean, I really like Tommy Fleetwood's chances. Now, if I apply that to building lineups, which I kind of already did this, a little side note, I already created a video, found out that one of my stats was incorrect, and went in and corrected it. So I am on take 2. Actually, it's really take 3. But anyways, So out of this, I've already preset lineups. I really like Rory McIlroy and I really like Dustin Johnson. So out of those guys, I've played them. I have them down 20 times each. I'm going to make 50 lineups. That's what this black bar indicates. This black bar is at line 52. Line 1 is dedicated to my headers. So that means you just take, one away. I got to create 51 lineups. So you can see 51 up would be 50. And this is how I've done all my lineup construction videos. Just going off of 50, it's an easy number. We can work with it. I'm more likely going to have like 60 to 70 lineups. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. My numbers are going to be a little bit different after I create lineups or after I construct lineups. But for this video, I'm going to go off of 50 because it's an easy number to go by. But out of 50 lineups, I'm going to have 20 Rory, 20 DJ. And that was just me going, how much Rory, how much DJ do I want? I want to play them both, but out of 50, I want to play them in, well, it's not, I think it's 40%. So 50 times 0.4. There you go. 40% of my lineups, I want either, 40% of lineups, I want DJ in, and the other 40%, I want Rory in. I will probably pair 1 or 2 lineups of them together, but that's just not, it's really difficult to do. I think it'd be kind of boneheaded to do that, in all of my lineups if I liked them, because that doesn't leave a lot of salary. In fact, I'll just show you. So I would have a remaining 6,800, which isn't bad. I do like a lot of the golfers that are 6,800 and below, but it's just not gonna, I don't think it gives you a lot of win equity. So I definitely wouldn't do that, but I just wanted to show you. Anyways, column 1 already preset with the golfers that I like, and these are your top expensive golfers. If I were to go ahead, pull up the 20, I can pull up the, I'll just show you at the top of this list. So you can see, like, those are my top guys, right? 11.5 to 9.8. You recognize the names? Well, that's basically how they go down here. So JT, John, Rahm, Webb Simpson. But anyways, and I also like Adam Scott a lot. So I just put him at the top of, where the breaks happen in the lineups, just so I have a visual reference. I'm going to play more Adam Scott than that, but I just wanted to put that there because he is going to be in a lot of my lineups with these guys. And probably when I get to like lineup 60 to 70, I might put Adam Scott alone and probably put a little bit more John Rahm alone. But yeah, I just want to give you guys a heads up with that. Okay, back to our 1-1s. So we see these guys here. I'm just going to go ahead, copy that, bring them over to my DraftKings lineup construction page, and just paste them here. Now, I'm going to go ahead, clear this. We'll delete that so you guys aren't confused. That number that we saw, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and go back to it, 83%. Out of 50 lineups, okay. Keep that in mind, 50 lineups, okay. 83% is the last 6 years, 5 years we've seen a 1-1. What's the likelihood that'll change from 5 to 6 to 6 to 7? So out of the last 7 years, we've seen 6 years with a 1-1 inside the top 10. Well, if we're already saying we like it, you could play it this way. You could either put 100% of 1-1s in your lineups, or 100% of your lineups will have a 1-1 in them. One of the guys, one of the 3 guys. Or if you want to be aggressively conservative, as I like to call it, go ahead, 6 divided by 7, 85%, times that by 50, and you've got 42.8. We're just going to call that 43. So 43 lineups, I want a 1-1 in. So as we go back to the lineup construction page, I'm going to go ahead and put 43 up there just to give me a visual. Now, out of those 43 lineups, how much Tommy Fleetwood do I want to play? If we divide this by 3 evenly, we can play 14.33 of each of these guys. Obviously, 2 guys are going to be 14 and one's going to be 15. I think that's right? I don't care. Doesn't matter. It's going to be something like that. But I like Tommy Fleetwood so much more than the other guys that I think I would rather have kind of a double number than either of them, which I've done before. So Let's go ahead and say out of 43, I want to play Tommy Fleetwood in 50% of those lineups. Oh my God, did it the wrong way. 43 divided, no, times 0.5, not times 50. So 21 and a half. We're going to round up and go 22 lineups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, copy Tommy Fleetwood, drag him down 22 times. That's 21, and there's 22. So there's 22 lineups right there. Now I can remove 22 from that number. I just know off the top of my head it's 21. So I have 21 lineups left between Gary Woodland and Tyrrell Hatton. I'm going to do this. I kind of have a fascination with the number 9. So what I'm going to do is go Gary Woodland. I'm bring him down 9 times. And a prime of 9 is 3. And what else is a prime, or what does 3 go into? It goes into 12. So it's kind of a weird way of doing it. I do like Tyrrell Hatton because he's cheaper. I rather have more of Tyrrell Hatton. So there's 12 lineups there. Altogether, this equals 43. And another validation is how many blank spaces do I have? I have 7. 43 plus 7, that's 50. Here's a cool thing about Google Sheets. So you can see I lined them all up together. Well, what good is that? Do we want Tommy Fleetwood with Rory McIlroy all the time and Gary Woodland with Dustin Johnson? Of course not. That'd be stupid. But Google Sheets has a really cool function called randomize range. So you just pick the range that you want to randomize, including these blank spaces here. And I'll just show you randomize range. Now puts these blank spaces all over the place. And it just shakes up basically where these players are going to be. This is really cool when you have a huge player pool and you don't want to, like, what this does for me is it removes my ability to just pair up Tyrrell Hatton with Rory McIlroy. Like, of the 12 times I have him, like 10 times. I don't want to have Tyrrell Hatton in 10 of my Rory McIlroy lineups because that means only 2 of them are going to either be in Dustin Johnson or the rest, right? This is also just letting, I guess I wouldn't say so much fate take over and say, all right, this randomization is going to put whatever. This is how I'm going to create lineups. I'm going to leave it right here. I want Tommy Fleetwood at the top to go with Adam Scott and Rory just to make a lineup that way. But I do like this, having this much blank space with Rory. I can also go like this and say, okay, I'm going to go up to Dustin. I want one more blank spot with Dustin Johnson, and I can just randomize this range. So it's not going to touch anything up here. There we go. Now we have one there. Perfect. One with Hideki Matsuyama. That's fine. And JT with, I like that. Perfect. So I'm going to leave this alone. I'm done with my 1-1s. I'm very satisfied with this. Now, I started with 1-1s because it's usually, your highest number of success rate that we're going to find. Now, 1s in general, we're going to find quite a bit of 1s. And if we go back to this notes page, look at how many 1s you see, in this. So like 3 is your minimum, but you're going to see 1s quite a bit of times. I can also go back to this matrix here and just prove to you inside the top 10, our minimum is 3, our maximum is 6. And same down here, our minimum is 3, our maximum is 9. So for the did not play, you could literally make a lineup of nothing but last week 1s. But again, we've seen the minimum of 3, so that might not be a smart or wise thing to do. Same goes with your last year 1s. This just tells me I want at least 3 of each. And finding a 1 last year 1 and a last week 1, pairing them together, just kind of, it's 2 birds with 1 stone, basically. Not saying that's a super smart way of going about it, but again, our other validation is how many times have we seen a 1-1 over the last 6 years? We've seen it 5 times inside the top 10. And we have 14 instances of it happening. So as we go through and count them, it actually might be more, because this is where my stat was wrong. No, still adds up to be 14, but you see it 14 times. A minimum of it happening, 0 times, but when it does happen, it happens at least 2 times, up to 4 times. Well, we only have 3 golfers in that pool. So I'm not going to, go gung-ho on it. But what I'm going to do from here is, okay, so we've got our 1-1s done. There's actually a bigger pool that has a higher concentration of finding the top 10. And I'm going to highlight it right now, and you're going to see it on your screen. It is a 2-1. We've seen a 2-1 every single year. It doesn't happen as much, like this number isn't as high as the 1-1s, but it's happened every single year. I think it's going to happen this year simply because the player pool is pretty big. I can go ahead, sort this by greatest to lowest, and you're going to see 100% or 2-1s. So again, 100% of the last 6 years, we've seen a 2-1 inside the top 10. That's how you read this number. What's the likelihood of it happening? Well, your top priced guy is Brandt Snedeker. Not really a good player you want, anchoring a player pool, but we have a total of 22 golfers in this pool. There are 70 golfers in this tournament. The odds of one of these guys finishing inside the top 10 is pretty high, honestly. So I would say it's going to continue that trend. 100% of these golfers are going to be inside. Not 100% of these golfers, but 100%. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to see a 2-1, which is going to increase that streak from 6 of the last 6 years to 7 of the last 7 years. But you could go one step different. And what's the, if we want to be a little safe and cautious, what we could do is, okay, maybe it doesn't happen this year. So that means 6 of the last 7 years, it's happened 85%. That's just us having a little bit of doubt. Well, this is our doubt range, 85 to 100%. So we can play these 2-1s, which what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy them, bring them over to the lineup construction sheet, and paste them here. And somewhere between 85% to 100%. Sorry. I could do something like this. I know we already did this with the 1-1s, 43. We can think about, putting these 2-1s in 43% of or 43 of our 50 lineups, or we can put them in 100, or maybe just 45. Like, we can mess around somewhere between 43 and 100, or 43 and 50. Jeez. But the other thing with all of this is now we can kind of bring up our player pool. So we want good course history, we want good POA history, we want good recent form. So as we look at the spreadsheet, we can go ahead, hide some of this information, and look at these POA splits, look at the course history splits, look at the recent form splits. As you can see, a lot of golfers do not have recent form, and a lot of them also do not have course history. Have we seen this before with 2-1s? We sure have. In 2019, I have highlighted what is considered a 2-1. These are actually 1-2s. Sorry. And this isn't the way we want it. Here you go. So we're looking for golfers who did not play the year before and golfers that did not play the week before. Ian Poulter, 7,900. European golfer, by the way. That's also something to note because we're going to see that more than once. Adam Hadwin, Shubhankar Sharma, 75, 7,000. Now, Adam Hadwin is not European, nor is Shubhankar Sharma, but they're international, quote unquote, golfers. Adam Hadwin's Canadian. So that's just, a neighbor state to Minnesota, basically. A joke, of course. And then Tommy Fleetwood, 7,400. John Rahm, 9,000, which doesn't surprise me. He's an elite golfer. Fabrizio Zanotti, 6,900. Fabrizio at this time of this year was actually playing really well. So we can find a European golfer or an American one, Harris English. We could find a European and JB Holmes. That was the other one. And Kevin Na. So now as we get closer to 2013, we're seeing a bit more, but here we go. Some more international golfers. Tongchai Jaidi, Miguel Angel Jimenez, or Jimenez, as you would pronounce it correctly. And I'm not going to find anyone down here because I don't have any last year stats for 2013 because this is where my stats go to, 2013. But either way, we find a lot of international golfers. We do find some Americans, JB Holmes and Harris English. I guess if we were to look at JB Holmes, recent form 37. Oh, Kevin Na 56.8. Just want to find, something, and 32.25. So good recent form with Americans. As we look here, recent form, not very good for an American, 46.25, although we did see Kevin Na there. So I'm not afraid of playing Brandt Snedeker. Graham McDowell's not an American, of course. But anyways, here you go. 2 1s go all the way to here. And I guess what I can do is just clear this and just put the 2 1s up here. That way we can then do more sorts. We can sort by overall POA. Who is our best POA golfers? You can see the events that these guys have played. So if you're not confident in some of these guys, I do have it color coded. Like, the darker it goes, the more cautious you should be. And the closer to green it goes, the more comfortable you should be. But I also have the amount of times, the top 10 POA percentage just stands for how often they finish inside the top 10 on a POA track. 29.5% for Brandt Snedeker. Scott Hend, 1 out of 3 tournaments, obviously. He finished inside the top 10, and I don't know which tournament that is. We could also look at 2020 POA, look at Kurt Kitayama. That looks pretty good. Again, Brandt Snedeker, he is no stranger on POA. POA is a good surface for him. So it might be worth playing. And we also can go by course history with some of these guys. Again, Brandt Snedeker just looks like he's the top of that pool. So basically what I'm going to do is I would actually recommend this. Go into DraftKings, look at some of these golfers, look at their finishing positions on the European Tour. You can also look at the fantasy points per game that they've racked up, like Victor Perez. That's pretty darn good. So we can go ahead and sort by this, and maybe we go by this as opposed to like course history or whatever, because we're going to find, golfers who've been really good. And you can combine it with the official world golf ranking, which I've heard other people talk about saying, don't use this is bullshit. I don't think so. The European Tour is catching up to the PGA Tour. The European golf courses some of them are just as difficult or more difficult than some of these American courses that they're playing on the PGA Tour. I would look at it if you're uncertain of who a player is. Pair that up with how many points per game they have. Pair it up with, course history. Pair it up with recent form. I would do all of those things to determine how comfortable I am to play somebody. But either way, what I'm going to do is I have this sorted by points per game because that's what I like to determine golfers I just don't know. And I'm going to repaste over this. Okay, so we have 43 golfers again. I can go to 45. So I have a total of 22 golfers, meaning I'm going to make this 44. I could play all of these guys at least twice if I wanted. So I could do something like this. I can copy all of them and say, I don't know out of any of these guys who's going to win. Go up here and again, do that randomized range thing. That way I can't like cherry pick which golfer is going to be with Tommy Fleetwood or which golfer will be with Rory McIlroy. I can just do something like this. And then I would have all my 2 1s done. That's as easy as that. I can literally do that. Or I can kind of play favorites and say out of 44 golfers or 44 positions open, I want to play Victor Perez in 10. I want to play Lucas Herbert. I knew it. I think one of my spreadsheets is wrong. That or I didn't see something. I did this video already. Is there another Herbert? Oh, there is. There's a Benjamin Herbert. And then there's a Lucas Herbert or Herbert. I'm pretty sure it's not Herbert. Interesting. Okay. I knew I was, okay. I was confused for some reason, and now I know why. Anyways, so we know he's the next points. And obviously this is sorted by most points per game to less. But with that, we also want to look at course history, recent form. So, you know, our top guy for course history is Brandt Snedeker. So why don't we go ahead and assign, say, 7... how many different golfers do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will assign six positions to Brandt Snedeker. And really, I can just start doing this. So I can throw this down 10 times. I can throw this down 6 times. Oops. That's 7. And then I can continue going down the line. So if I wanted to play one of these guys at least once, or each of these guys at least once, I do like Bernd Wiesberger. He has played really well. I don't know why he's that far down. I do like Justin Harding. I like Robert McIntyre. I don't know about Benjamin Hebert. I do like Graham McDowell. So what if I did something like this and just played a bunch of these guys just once? What is my number at now? 47. So I need to trim some of these golfers. Well, I do like the number 9, right? So I guess we can go down here. Maybe Byrne goes down, and maybe McIntyre goes down. There's 44. Now, do I feel comfortable with this? Maybe. I don't know some of these golfers. I don't know them that well. But I do know a 2-1 has been inside the top 10 100% of the time over the last 6 tournaments. It could really be any of these golfers. And I already designated ownership for the golfers that I actually like more so than the others. And don't get me wrong, we can play multiples of these guys. So although I have 44 positions dedicated, I'm just going to say this. I have 44 positions designated to column H. I can designate more columns over here to some of these other golfers. So I want you guys to be aware of that, because we have seen it happen more than once. So if I were to go back to our combination here, how many times do we see a 2-1? Multiple times. Here's 1 year. Here's another year. No more than twice, it looks like. So that's something also to consider. So it doesn't happen more than twice. So in some of these lineups, I can pair, you know, like Victor Perez with a Brandt Snedeker, just like that. And I'll probably more or less handpick those lineups. I'm not just gonna randomize them like I have been, but I could easily. I've done this before, and it's just more mad scientist work. But if I were to go here and look at this, so 1, 2, 3 of the last 6 years, there's been at least 2. So 3 out of 6, that's 50%. I could go into the lineups here and do 25 lineups, since that's 50% of 50, and put more 2-1s over here. Could do that. I'm not going to. I just don't care. But I also don't want to get stuck on this and just keep talking about this over and over and over again, and keep building lineups based off of that, because in all honesty, it's just going to take up time that I'm sure you guys don't care about. So what I'm going to do is just preset these, or just fill these in so you can see what it will look like. So the rest of these guys are at 1. Again, this should leave, it leaves 6 spots open, 5 spots. So I copied one extra. I guess it doesn't really matter. Oh, I didn't trim one of the Victor Perez's. That's fine. I can do it right here. So I will have 6 open spots. Again, just like in column I, or for the 1-1s, as we can designate this column too, I can go ahead and randomize the range. That way, all the Victor Perez's get split up. All the Brandt Snedekers get split up. All the guys that I've played a couple extra times get split up. I'm going to go ahead and just keep doing this randomized range until I get to, and I don't really have to, I can just do something like this. I want Victor Perez right there. So I can go ahead, switch it out like that, and then look, you know, kind of scan maybe I want an additional open space here for DJ, so I can go ahead and kind of do a replace. So Robert McIntyre that was there, I moved up here, and then gave a blank space to Dustin because I don't want all of these 2-1s with Dustin in case a 2-1 doesn't happen and Dustin's in the optimal lineup. So that's how I do that. I know, that wasn't that long, and it filled this up because I kind of knew that's how I wanted to do it. But that's also how I'm going to figure out my ownership percentages. I want to play Victor Perez in X amount of lineups. But I don't want to handicap myself and putting Victor Perez with Tommy Fleetwood and Rory McIlroy in all of my lineups. Now, I can see that that's happened already a couple times as I come down here and I scan this. But luckily, it's only happened twice. And that's cool. I like that. One of them's with Adam Scott. One of them's without. Perfectly fine with me. I genuinely like that. So I do like how I did the 2-1s. I can come back to the notes page, take a look to see what other combinations are heavy. So 1-2s, 3-1s, and 4-1s. Those really, and I could also bring in these 3 out of 6s. I could target these ranges. And why don't we do that? Why don't we just look at 1-2s, 1-3s, 2-4s, 3-1s, and 4-1s. That'll be easy to remember. So I am going, we can stay on the spreadsheet we were just at. So let's look at the 1-2s. Look at that range. I think it's actually for, you know what? I do want to bring this up. You have Tommy Fleetwood and Gary Woodland playing together. I do look at tee times, and that's why this lineup construction video comes out on Wednesdays. I look at tee times to determine if I like a playing group. More often than not, if you're in competitive golf, playing in a good group will boost your performance. It doesn't happen all the time, just like if you were playing in a bad group, it doesn't decrease your performance. Because some golfers could just be in a zone while the rest of the golfers are just struggling. Likewise could happen. The other 2 golfers could be doing really well and you might be struggling. But more often than not, you play in a good group, it's going to boost your performance. You play in a bad group, it's probably going to decrease your performance. If we like Tommy Fleetwood and Gary Woodland, we should pair them up together, honestly. And their price kind of allows for that to happen. So I think it's a good idea to do that. But I did want to mention that because I forgot to. In the other video I had, I did, but I didn't do it in this one. All right, so we've seen 1-2s in 5 out of the last 6? Yeah, 5 out of the last 6 years. What's the likelihood we're going to see that again this year? JT alone bumps that needle up. Cam Smith could do it as well. He fits our course history. Recent form doesn't look well, but I do want to point you to something. In 2019, or what was it? Oh, there was a shoot. I think there was a Dustin lineup. Maybe not. Okay. What I was thinking of is there was this recent form that was pretty terrible that finished in first place. There it is, DJ. So it's happened. So DJ, a 44 recent form, a missed cut the week before, and a top 10 the year before matches what Justin Thomas was. Missed cut the week before, top 20 the year before, and a recent form of 43.50. You guys want to see that again? I'll pull it up. There you go. Recent form last week, last year. So, it's happened. I think Justin Thomas is probably going to be going under the radar a little bit more. Maybe not because of his price, but DJ and Rory are honestly in form to do really well at this tournament. But I do like JT, and I have started lineups with him. The thing is, when we're creating lineups, so you can see the number over here. I'm not going to click through yet, but the number over here, 83.33%, just like with the 1-1s. Same thing applies. How do we think that number is going to change? It probably will. But JT is 10,800. If I put him up in this group, that sinks that lineup to 1,300 left. Sorry, there's no player that you can afford that's $1,300. So JT cannot be put in here. In fact, he can't be put in a lot of these lineups. Some of them will work out, but I can't unlike Tommy Fleetwood, his price, like Justin Thomas's price, puts a handicap on how often you can play him. I kind of created an equation of return on investment for a player's salary, and it's 1.1 times. You want 1.1 times worth of points, per $1,000 salary. I think that's how it's worded. But let's say, so JT is 10.8, 10,800. If we just snip, these zeros there, it's 108. I want that 108. I want at least 108 points from him, but I want 1.1 times 108. Guess I could have went the other way around. So I want 118 points. If I were to go back and look at, say, the last couple tournaments, and I'm not going to pull them up, but actually I'll pull up the 2019. I only have a few golfers here. Third place was 105 points. Sixth place, nobody reached over 93.5 points. If JT doesn't finish in third place or better, he's more likely not going to be in your optimal lineup unless the guys above are $6,700. Just not going to happen. So what am I getting with all this? I can't really do that same equation as I did for the 1-1s in, say, column G. I can't play, if we think it's going to happen, I can't play, 50 times 0.86. I can't play 43 lineups and then basically try to figure out how to do ownership. Like if I like JT, if we split this in half, or we split this by threes, if you guys recall, that would be 14 times. So if I were just to do that and say I want to play JT 14 lineups, Cam Smith and 14 lineups, and then Francesco Molinari in 14. And this is a good way to get on someone like Francesco, because I'm sure a lot of people will not be playing him. But if I did something like this, and I know I have some JT lineups down here, and I went and randomized this range a couple times, you can already tell Justin Thomas at the top what it does to this lineup, and even Francesco Molinari does to that lineup. So obviously I can't have any of these golfers up there. I have to find someone. I have to have that to be blank, and I can go ahead and change it. But the one thing I want you guys to also realize, I don't know why, just be a blank space up there. Anyways, like right here, 54-50. Even when I randomize this with JT that many times, I am going to lose out on some salary. Like, it's going to be really difficult to create some lineups. 5,700, 6,500, 63, 61, 62. So like I would then have to eyeball all of these lineups once again to try to figure out the likelihood that I could play these guys at. So I simply can't do it with 1-2s. But the thing is, I do like Justin Thomas. I do want to play him. But this is actually a pool that I can't really get behind. In fact, I think what I would rather do is fill in these here with Justin Thomas. Can't do it in that one. But yeah, I could do something like that. Totally worth it. And then the other two, I can just fit in wherever. The thing is, I'm not going to worry about that player pool. I know 83% of the time we can assume that that particular bucket combination is going to finish inside the top 10. But the thing is, Justin Thomas finishing outside of, say, 5th place is just not worth it. So you also have to consider that. And if we look at this player pool, like, you would have to be all in on Justin Thomas. Meaning you could not play Rory McIlroy as many times as I'm going to. And you can't play DJ as many times as I'm going to play DJ. So with that being said, I'm not going to play those other two golfers, split between 43, 43 divided by 2, I'm not going to play those other 2 golfers in 21 lineups each. Just not going to happen. So I'm going to say that bucket combination is a dead range. I'm not touching it. I know that was a long-winded way of explaining that, but I'm just not touching it. So what was the other one that we looked at? 1-2s. Now we want to look at 1-3s. So 50% of 1-3s we've seen inside the top 10 over the last 6 years. DJ's there, and so is Rory. So we already have DJ and Rory, but here you go. Rafa, we don't have a lot of Rafa. We do have some Hideki, but I will consider Rafael Cabrera. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring those other guys up and just throw them there just so I know I want to play some of those guys. These are part of my player pool to eventually play. So that's just what I'm going to have here. I don't care what group they're a part of. I just know I want to play them. So the other one that we saw, a 2-4. I know I said I'd remember. Obviously, I didn't. Yeah, let's go ahead, go 4, and then 2. So now we see some of these young guys, and I like this player pool quite a bit. I'm going to put that here. And what's the likelihood we're going to find these guys inside the top 10? As much as I like them, I'm not going to say it's going to be above. So, obviously 3 of the last 6 years, 50%. I'm just going to keep it at 3, divide it by 7, and play them in 43% of lineups. So 50 times 43.43, 21.5. So out of these 5 golfers, let's put them in 22. And then I can also go back to here, look at my player pool criteria that I had, and look to see if any of them has course history. They don't. I can look to see recent form average, who has the best. Lanto Griffin does. I can also come here and look to see who has the best POA percentage, and maybe I go by that. So Colin Morikawa a little bit better, and we can see the top 10 POA percentage. What's the likelihood of them finishing inside the top 10? Well, Colin Morikawa's done it in 14.29% of his 7 events that he's played. Lanto Griffin's done it in 11% of the 9 events he's played. And then we can also look at their 2020 POA splits and try to determine, do we like any of that? Now, the other thing that I'd go even a little bit further into is who has the best birdie or better percentage. And when I sort it by that, Scotty Scheffler's at top, and really the POA splits kind of flip. So do we like that? Didn't Scheffler fell outside the top 10? That's crazy. I was thinking he did, but obviously he finished 30th. I can go by birdie or better. That's not an actual it's not a stat that is very relevant in success here. In fact, if I were to show you the 2019 DK page and go ahead and unclear these, or just select all of them now, I could sort by birdie or better. Now this is the ranking, the PGA rank, and then I can come over here and look to see what the result was. So you're not seeing a lot of guys up at the top. And then if we look at some of these prices that we're kind of seeing these guys at, it's not good. It shows that birdie or better isn't something that we really want to put we don't want to put a lot of stock into. So I'm not doing birdie or better. In fact, the one actual stat that I saw was around the green and putting. So putting and around the green were 2 stats that I saw were actually good at this track. And I guess if I'm putting putting, I want to put it with POA percentage. These guys' putting, not bad. But really the 2 guys that stand out would be this guy, Carlos Ortiz, and Lanto Griffin. So I can play them based off of that. I just like these guys so much together. Not so much together, but that this player pool is so good that I want to look to see how many times, have we seen a 2-4 together with themselves. So there's a 2-4 there. I think we've only seen it like once. 2-4. 2-4. There you go. So has it only happened 3 times? Okay, no. So 1 year it's happened. So 16% of the last 6 years, we've seen 2 2-4s inside the top 10. Not very good, but it does give me a little bit of luxury to play some of these guys a couple more times. Now, Colin Morikawa is the most expensive one out of all of them, so maybe that plays a little factor into it. It would be much easier playing Lanto and Carlos Ortiz. I'm actually going to put my ownership based off of that. So we can go ahead, go back to here. Out of 22 lineups, we got to come up with something kind of crafty. So my 2 favorite guys, let's say I want to play them. So there's 5 of them. So equally, they would all get 20%. So let's go ahead and do 35. Will that give me an even number? 7.7. Let's just do 7. 7 of our favorite guys. So I'm going to put 7 Carlos Ortiz. I'm going to put 7 Lanto Griffin. So now 14. Now it's 8 positions between these 3 golfers. And I think I'm just going to go 3, 3, and 2. So I think I like 3. I like 2, 3. So this is how I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to go ahead and sort this like this. Again, do the same thing that I just showed you. Click and drag down how many times we're going to own them. So 7. Now, this is also just for the column that I'm playing them in. I'm going to play some of these guys together. And they're really what it's going to do, or what I'm going to do, I should say how I'm going to do it, is just going to be like a click and fill. So when I go ahead and randomize this range, I'm also looking at the salaries, like 3,600, that can't be done. So I'm going to have to randomize that again. I really didn't think it was 6,000 that was left. I've looked at that before. Interesting. Okay. Well, whatever. It's so surprising to me. I don't know why. I kind of want more Carlos Ortiz up here with Rory, so I'm going to keep randomizing this until I see more. So there's 4. I don't want 4, but I do want more. Again, I don't want 4. All right. Carlos Ortiz. All right, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to go ahead, copy and paste, throw them up here. Go ahead, get rid of that one. We have 1 Carlos Ortiz. All right, too many Carlos Ortizes down here. I want to put some of them up here. JT can have 1 Carlos Ortiz, that's fine. But basically, I'm also going to be eyeballing this average salary. So like, was there 4,500? So I can't put Colin Morikawa there. I can put him here though. So yeah, I'm also eyeballing this average salary remaining to just make sure that I can create lineups now. Again, I'm going to keep these guys over here, but now I think the 3 ones were something we wanted to look at. 3 ones and 4 ones, I believe, right? 3 ones, 4 ones. Okay. I'm just going to quickly go through them. You already know how I'm creating these lineups. I'm not going to further bore you guys, but 3 ones look pretty good. Prices are all over the place. You can bet I'm not playing a lot of Shugo Imahara. Imahira, I should say. I'll play some Matt Wallace. I do like Lee Westwood and Kevin Kisner. But the other thing to go with 3 ones that I've noticed is if I were to go ahead and highlight everyone inside the top 5, you don't see a lot of 3s inside the top 5. Sure, you see a 3-4 there, but the rest, and a 3-1 here. So you see a 3-1 inside the top 5, but you don't see them top 3. Again, going with the JT analysis, $9,800. If we want that 1.1 times, Webb Simpson would have to finish 4th place or better. Obviously, he would have to at least get 98 points, but we would want something like 107 points out of him. Again, I have just last year's points over here. So, you know, again, 6th place or worse isn't going to get you 97 points. It's possible. Don't get me wrong. It's possible. But, you know, looking at last year's performances, it just looks like if you don't get 3rd place or better, you're not going to get to that value. So I'm not going to play Webb Simpson in a lot of lineups. But I do like the possibility of like Louis Oosthuizen all the way to Matt Wallace. So I would do the same thing there. And then if I go to the 4-1s, we don't have a lot. I like Byung-Hun An. He's going to be played in a lot of lineups. Here's your perfect pivot, Billy Horschel. So if you're not playing in a lot of lineups and you're going strictly based off of ownership, this is probably your natural pivot, going from Benny An to Billy Horschel. But I will be playing both of these guys also in my lineup, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that over here. I should have done that with the 3-1s, just so you guys can see. But basically, I can also do those percentages and fill them in here, but in all reality, I'm just going to eyeball this and try to figure it out. Like, we already figured that one out. But I'm going to leave the video at this. We're running close to an hour, as we typically do, but it was pretty good. I know the DFS community, at least the people who present videos and create videos, create content, they don't like when people do full lineup construction. So I like doing it up until here. So like when 50% of my lineups get built, I like to end it, so you guys have an idea of how I'm going to do this. This also prevents you from copying any of my lineups. Most of these are going to stay exactly the same. I don't think I'm going to change anything about this. But I do know I want to play a lot of Adam Scott, so I'll be adding a lot of Adam Scott to my lineups. And then, I mean, I might just do that right now. So I want to play Adam Scott in 20% of my lineups. Now, 20% of 50, again, we can just do that math really quick. I want Adam in about 30% of my lineups. So I want him in 15. I have him in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have him in 5. So I need to add him 10 more times, which I'm just going to do this with Rory. Add him 4 times here. Add him 4 times here. Let's see. So that's 8. I want him in 15 lineups. It's 11. That's 13. Yeah. Okay, so 13. I need to add 2 more, so I can put one more there, and I can put 1 more with Justin Thomas. Totally fine. I like this. Again, I got to look at the prices here, so I can't put Adam Scott there, but I can certainly put him here. So I'll have to get rid of that there. I can also put Adam Scott as I'm looking at this, so like 8,500 right there. So any of these that are, you know, really low, I can go ahead and do that, and that'll give me a little bit leeway. So I can add someone here for 7,500. That's pretty good. Obviously, I'm sure some of you guys are going to be looking at this. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and do that right there. So I like that lineup a lot. And this was my way to basically create lineups that look a lot like the last 6 years, which I think matters. You know, why do we see the same trends every single year? Why do we see, I mean, obviously this right here is kind of, you have to take that into consideration. But the thing is, all of these like colors that you see over here that aren't 1s or 2s are usually followed by 1s or 2s in front of them. And I really care more so about the last year score than I do the last week score. You obviously have to look at the players. So I guess the other thing that I could do really quickly is open this up to everybody but the 1s and 2s. Select all. So now we get you know, players that we can feel comfortable playing. You know, one thing I want you to see is John Rahm, Bryson, Matt Kuchar, even Jordan Spieth down here, all 0%. So I told you during the preview video I wanted to see what the bucket score was going to tell me about Jordan Spieth. This just shows me I don't want to play Jordan Spieth. I know he's trending upwards, but he needs to put together a couple good finishes before I play him. And $8,000, I would play him at 7,400. I don't want to play him at 8. I'll play some. because of the fear of missing out. But then here's the rest of your, we already looked at 2-4s, so we don't have to think about 2-4s, but here's the rest of the players. I can easily just go and sort this by POA splits, find my favorite golfers. So like Paul Casey, 8,700. I can throw him in wherever, whenever. I don't, I could throw him right here to try to even this one out and add someone that's 7,800. Then I can come down here. Do I find anyone at the top at 7,800? No. Charles Howell, 71. That's not bad. I could choose him based off of that. I could choose him off of course history. Like, do I find anyone that's 78? Well, fine. Charles Howell III. He fits that mold. Leaves me $700 remaining. Easy way to find, lineups to, again, there isn't a bias when you're creating these lineups. Doing it this way. This is just like, okay, I need to fill in that spot. Who can I do it with? Well, let me sort through my stats. And the only person, like the top guy that I could actually fit would have been either Rafa Cabrera or Charles Howell III. If I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know which one to pick, go ahead and copy that lineup that you just had and put Rafa Cabrera as your other guy. And now you have two lineups that you like a lot with, whatever. To me, that's an easy way to create lineups. But yeah, this is how I'm going to do the rest of my lineups. And you can tell I still have some work to do. I still have to go through here and do this, which is totally fine. I'm just going to go ahead and change some of these already. I am not looking to see who I'm pairing them up with, by the way. I mean, I saw with that one. I'm just looking at the price here. So 8,600. Again, like those golfers, pretty good. But now this leaves me a little bit of open space to put in some other golfers. 67.5. I'll put that right there. So am I putting a lot of, nope. You know what? Oh, no. So what I'm thinking about in my head is, how often am I playing Lanto with Adam Scott? And it's like, oh, only 2 lineups that I have with Dustin Johnson. That's not bad. But Adam Scott, Lanto again right there. Oh yeah. So what I would rather do is go ahead and remove one of these Lantos. So I'll remove that one and keep this one here with Victor Perez, because I do want to play Victor Perez with Adam Scott in a Dustin lineup. I want to play Victor Perez with a Rory and Adam Scott lineup. I do like Victor Perez. I do like Tommy Fleetwood. Obviously this one I have Gary Woodland, but yeah, I will also eyeball these, but I am not sticking to them. Like I'm not doing a cascading, which I'm not against. To me, this actually gives me a better opportunity to find the optimal lineup rather than concentrating on a core and then just substituting with pivot plays, which is still a bias. Like you're still looking at the players and you're finding someone, like $300 more or $300 less. It still doesn't really give you a lot of fluctuation. If you're really good and disciplined and you're like, well, I can go ahead and pick someone $900 less. I don't have to find someone right next to that salary. Chances are most of you guys are looking right next to that salary. I can do this. You just saw me create a lineup that left $700 on the table. I also created a lineup that has $100 left on the table. And that's because I knew a 4-1, which I do want in my lineups, I can just easily fit. I could have easily went with like Matt Wallace, put a 3-1 there, and that would give me $900. But I can't see a price, for these golfers. I do know what their prices are, or at least kind of some kind of idea. But yeah, I will be leaving somewhere between $0 on the table all the way up to like $1,300 to $2,100. And it's all based off of basically doing it by the bucket system. And again, looking at the stats as well. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. I thought this was pretty good, pretty constructive. At an hour, most of these lineup construction videos are probably going to be an hour, regardless of how quickly I can go through them. But you guys can easily pause these, find the buckets, because I know none of you guys have these spreadsheets other than my friends. So you can just pause it and be like, ooh, out of the 1-3s, I like DJ the best, or I like Rory the best, or whatever. And you can go off of it by that way. But yeah, we'll end it there. Good luck today, or good luck this week. Hopefully some of you guys do well, some others or some better than others, but you know, I'd like to see, if you do well, let me know. You know, comment, tweet me, any of those things. I will post your lineup. I'll post your success all over the place. Just let me know, and let me know if you followed any of this, because that'd be awesome. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Give me a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the review video on Sunday. All right, bye.